I guess it all started, like, first of all, I've always loved dressing up in women's clothing ever since I was a little boy. Like, I had a blanket on my head and pretended it was a wig. And, like, I've loved dolls and Barbies and all that gay shit that little gay boys tend to like. So...
Who are you?
I'm a writer, I'm a storyteller.
In telling stories about gay characters.
The world was filled with people who occupy different intersections of otherness.
And I was fortunate enough to get in front of creative teams that were woke enough to see my light, to have conversations with others.
Who is this biracial angel?
Trans women and trans men.
I celebrate myself. Celebrate yourself and love each other. Hello, everybody, and welcome to JVC Presents Conversations with Others. I'm Jeffrey Bowyer-Chapman. Now, although today's guest lives about 5 blocks away from me, social distancing is still currently in full effect, so they are joining me via Zoom. They are a multi-pageant winning all-star, a dancer, a performance artist, a People's Choice Award winner, the first Canadian queen to sashay into the workroom of RuPaul's Drag Race, and together, we make 2/3 of the judges on the upcoming series, Canada's Drag Race. And now, for the simplest and most complex question of all. Who are you?
I am your alcoholic mother who abandoned you at a young age but shows up 2 days before your wedding wanting a reunion. Brooke Lynn Hytes.
Sudden feels like an episode of
You know, I was like thinking, how would I introduce myself if I was ever on Because I was thinking, well, what I was going to say. And I was like, well, I'm probably never going to be on so this is the perfect opportunity.
Hi, Brooklyn.
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good, sweetheart. You know that you are the only I have told you this before. You were the only person in the world that I will let get away with calling me Jeff, aside from my mom.
Sorry, Jeffrey.
You know, I don't know why it doesn't bother me when you do it, though. It's so endearing, and it's just it's like, I think from like day one, the day we met, you started calling me Jeff, and I just thought it was cute, too cute to correct you. This is so weird that you just moved to Los Angeles, you're right up the street, and yet we can't actually see each other in the flesh.
I know, it's so weird. I'm a California girl now.
I know, welcome.
It's so nice to be here. Like, I can't even tell you, like, this move. It was moving's horrible in general. And then to add this on top of everything, but my lease was up in Nashville and I was sitting there thinking, I was like, I'm not going to stay here for another year. Like, it just wasn't the place I wanted to be anymore. And I was done. And then my friend's apartment became available here. And I was like, am I going to do this? Like, this is the worst time to move / the best, because everything was so empty. Like, I didn't have to see anybody or like touch anybody. It was wonderful. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. So I packed up my belongings and here I am. And I'm so happy I did.
What a crazy experience moving during this time of COVID-19. Everybody is physically distant from each other. I mean, was it an easy process for you? I haven't talked to you about this at all. Like, I have no idea what that process was like for you coming from Tennessee.
It really was. Like, I was able to pretty much move myself. Like, it was a lot of lifting heavy boxes and stuff, but like, I rented a storage pod and I moved everything into it. I left all of my big heavy furniture in Nashville because my friend sold me a lot of his furniture. So I didn't have that much to move. And then when I got on the plane, there was like 10 people on the plane. So everyone was very socially distanced on the plane. It was definitely, I would not recommend doing it, but it was kind of one of those situations. I was like, was it going to be my mental health or my physical health? And at that moment, my mental health was taking priority. So I was like, for my mental health, this is the right move for me. And it also gave me somewhere to direct all of my anxiety. Mm-hmm. And it gave me something to do and something to like focus on, which I really needed. So it was good. And I'm so happy to be here. Like, I already feel better, just like in a better place mentally, being out here and being in a new location. So it was a good move.
Oh, honey, I am so happy to hear that. I mean, California is such, there are many worse places in the world we could be right now during all of this. You know, we have big living spaces. We have gorgeous weather outside, constant sunshine and blue skies. Like, life is pretty good right now, all things considered.
I can't complain, all things considered. I'm not doing too terribly.
You don't have a car here, though. I want to know, what is it like Ubering around everywhere?
Well, I mean, I don't. I didn't have a car in Nashville either, actually. I've never owned like a car as an adult. I've kind of put off doing really adult things my whole adult life. Like I've never like had a car. I don't even own it. Like I've never bought a TV or owned a TV. So, ever. I've just been very, it's been weird. But I've walked a lot of places. Like I have a Trader Joe's at the end of my block and my bank is right there. And there's a liquor store and a convenience store. So everything I kind of need is very close by. And when things start opening up again, I'm going to be traveling and working quite a bit still, thank God. So I'm going to kind of see how long I go without one. I don't really need one.
You know, because of the advent of Uber and Lyft, it makes getting around Los Angeles so much easier in general. But I guess I'm just curious as to what it's like at this time, particularly when we're being so conscious of staying at least 6 feet away from people. And then you're in a car with a virtual stranger who's in their car with dozens of people every day. Did you have any anxiety about that?
Not really. I've honestly just kind of been keeping my anxiety at bay. Like, I can feel myself starting to get anxious about things that I'm like, this is what I have to do right now. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to be as safe as I can. And then I'm going to get in my house and wash my hands and spray myself with Lysol. Like, what else could I do? But I am very, like, unless I have to take an Uber, I don't take an Uber. I like walking. So it's the Torontonian in me. Torontonians love a walk. Like, people here don't walk places, but...
Me too. I love walking so much too. It's the thing that I probably miss most about living in New York is the pedestrian aspect of it. It's just being able to be out, to get so many things done during the course of a day. First of all, you can get like 10 errands done when you're walking as opposed to the 3 you can get done in the course of a day in Los Angeles with traffic. But I actually just got rid of my car. My lease was up on my SUV and it's just been sitting in my driveway for the past couple of months as I haven't left my house really.
Wow.
I haven't tried the Ubering yet during all this time. I've been trying to walk everywhere as well, but I guess we'll see how long I can make this last, because I'm kind of liking the whole pedestrian vibe in Los Angeles as well.
It's nice. It's very chill. And it's a good way to explore the city and like find little new streets and stuff. So I kind of take a different route every time I go to the grocery store or something and explore a little bit.
Oh, that's so cute. Maybe I'll walk up to your house and throw some pebbles at your window and we can...
Yes.
So let's talk about the first time that you and I met. Do you remember the first time we met?
Yes, it was at the Creative Arts Emmys. And we were backstage. Well, not backstage. We were like side stage with Rue and you were there and all the people from World of Wonder. And it was so exciting. Nina West was there with me. It was we had such a good time. And you were like, I remember you're like, we were like meeting these celebrities who were coming by, like Lisa Kudrow, Marie Kondo. And you're like, hey, do you want to go to the green room? And like Kim Kardashian had just walked back there and I was like, yes. So me and Nina went back to the green room with you and we were in there so long that we missed the start of the show. It was so embarrassing. Like we walked into the theater and it was like 4,000 seat theater, like this huge theater. And we were on the opposite side of the side we needed to be on. And we were right in the front. And we tried to run across during a commercial break with all these celebrities looking at these 2 great big men in wigs. And we ran right by RuPaul and Ru was like, hi, what are you doing? It was so embarrassing. But it was fun. I wouldn't have traded that green room time for anything.
Girl, I am so sorry because I've apologized to you on so many occasions. The green room moment was special though. It was wonderful. We got to go in and just kind of like kiki with, people who we admire and are fans of, but then it was also something to like learn of people who I admire who also watched our work. You know, it was that fun, like creative exchange that you don't necessarily get in other situations where, you know, like everyone and anyone you had ever seen on television are in the same room at the same time. It was a very
fun. Jeff Goldblum was there and he's so sexy to me. So I love meeting him.
I loved meeting him as well. And he was so fucking phenomenal on this season of RuPaul's Drag Race as a guest judge. I thought he was spectacular.
I haven't watched the season yet. I've watched clips, but I'm waiting until it's all done and then I'm going to like binge watch.
You haven't seen anything?
I've seen clips. Like I've seen the runways. I've seen like Snatch Game clips. Like I'll like go on Instagram. I don't try to keep it a secret. I know who goes home every week, but I like to just sit. I love sitting down and watching a series as like a whole. So that's why I want to wait to the end so I can like sit down and like absorb it all. But like I've seen girls do things, and there's this, what a talented cast. Like they're incredible.
This season is absolutely blowing my mind. I feel like there really are no weak links. Yeah, these bitches, they really came to play after having the benefit and the blessing of having 12 seasons of the show behind them that they can watch and use as points of reference to learn kind of the tricks of the trade, the ropes of the game. They really use that information to their advantage, and you can see that they're implementing their expertise into each and every challenge.
Yeah, they're doing a really good job.
Were you familiar with any of the queens, any of the cast beforehand?
Yes, I knew Jada Hall beforehand. She actually was Silky's makeup artist at the finale. So she was like backstage with us at the finale last year when we were all getting ready. She was helping paint Silky and like get her ready. So, and I just kind of had like an inkling. I was like, like, are we going to see you next year? Like, I kind of thought.
She is extraordinary and hands down the queen of quick drag. The amount of time that it takes her to beat her face into something like spectacular, it's unparalleled.
Yeah, she's incredible. Like, she's one of those like one-stop shop queens. She can do it all herself.
Definitely. So we met for the first time at the Emmys just this past year, but I actually saw you live in person for the first time at the season 11 finale. I was there in the audience, and I saw
you were there.
Lip sync for the crown, and girl, oh my God, you were. I don't even have words. I was definitely a fan of yours watching the show.
Yeah.
Seeing you in person, seeing you up on that stage lip syncing for the crown, you are just you're a force to be reckoned with. Throughout the course of the season, watching you on season 11 of RuPaul's Drag Race, I think it was very evident and very obvious that you pay incredibly close attention to detail, that your level of experience and precision was so on point at all points and so apparent. But seeing you in person, I could feel the energy and I could feel the passion like just seeping out of your pores coming up from that stage. It was
fun. I was just at that point. I was just happy to be there. I mean, my goal was like I wanted to make it to the top 4, and then I was like, once that happened, and we had so long to sit there and think about it, I was like, okay, like I could win this, or like top 2 would be great too. So as soon as I won that first lip sync against Silky, and I was one of top 2, I was like, awesome. Like, I'm just gonna have fun now. Like I didn't really feel any pressure. I didn't feel like I was just there kind of performing, having a good time. It was a really nice feeling, like just to be in the moment and enjoying it. And like, I had a feeling Evie would take it anyway. So I was like, I'm just gonna fucking have fun.
Yeah. And isn't that the best position to be in, feeling no pressure like that? Just literally there, just to show the world what you've got and to be present and enjoy the moment.
It was, yeah. And it was really funny. Like, the only time on the show I wasn't like a nervous wreck, like when I was the most calm, was when I had to lip sync. Like I was just like, every single time my Sorry Not Sorry and then Pride a Deeper Love, like I was just chilling. Like I was just having fun. Like I wasn't stressed. I wasn't scared, because I was like, I know this is the one thing I really know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Not an acting challenge, not a singing challenge. Like I know what I'm doing when it comes to this. So like either they're going to like it or they're not, but I know I'm going to like deliver a good performance no matter what.
Wow. And that you did each and every time. I mean, this is so funny talking to you about these things, because I've never talked to you about these things in person. I've never really
know
about what a Brooklyn fan I am. I mean, I think I did have to let you know that I watched your Demi Lovato Sorry Not Sorry lip sync with Evie Oddly probably 30 times over the weekend. I mean, it's just...
It was a good one. We did a good job.
It is legendary. I'm sure you've talked about a lot of this stuff in other interviews, but because I don't know the answers to it, I'm going to ask you anyway. I have no idea. What was your journey to becoming the first Canadian queen on RuPaul's Drag Race?
Oh, geez. Well, I guess it all started, like, first of all, I've always loved dressing up in women's clothing ever since I was a little boy. Like, I had a blanket on my head and pretended it was a wig, and like, I've loved dolls and Barbies and all that gay shit that, little gay boys tend to like. So it started from a young age, and I didn't really do anything with it. I went to ballet school. I went to the National Ballet School of Canada. That's where I did my high school years, and stayed for a couple of years after for like just extra training. And then it was around that time, probably like 18, 19, I think the first time I went out in drag. It was literally around the corner from my house. I lived right in the gay village. And I had on my boys' stage makeup from the National Ballet School of Canada. It was literally like that. Remember that like stage makeup? I don't even know if they make this anymore, but it was like you had to wet the sponge, and it was like dry. I had that was my foundation, and I just had like a smoky eyeliner, no lashes, no like gluing down my eyebrows, no wig. Like I had dyed my hair like dark brown. So I had like a short dark brown pixie cut, and I just had on a pair of like girls' heels and like some skinny jeans and a little like crop top hoodie.
Oh my gosh. Did anyone help you get in drag, or was this all on your own doing?
It was like, I think my next door neighbor might have helped me a little bit, but it was pretty much all me. It was very humble beginnings. Yes. But you couldn't tell me I wasn't the one. I thought I was gorgeous.
You were the queen of the North even back then, my love.
Even then, with my little crop top hoodie.
Was this in the gay village? Was this in Toronto?
Toronto, yeah. I went to Cruise and Tango, so the first gay bar I ever went to and performed at. Well, I started kind of just doing drag very like, I was still in training to become a ballet dancer, so I would do drag like amateur competitions, nothing serious. I never got paid for a show for like probably a year and a half. And then I ended up moving to Hamburg, Germany to continue my ballet training. And then while I was there for like 2 weeks, and then I got offered a job in South Africa dancing for Cape Town City Ballet. So I was like, yes, perfect job. So I like just picked up, I didn't even know South Africa was a place. Clearly I was not great in school. I was like, I knew there was Africa, but I just didn't realize there was a southern part to it. So I was like, South Africa, like what? Like I didn't know. So I literally knew nothing about this place I was moving to. I got on a plane like 2 days later and moved my ass to South Africa.
I used to live in Cape Town.
Oh, I think we had this conversation, didn't we?
We did have this conversation. I lived in Cape Town in 2010, back when I was still working as a model. You know, South Africa, who knew that it was a place? It's just, you know, like the origin of the human species. But
I know, obviously, well, I paid no attention in school anyway. Like, that doesn't surprise me. It's a miracle I'm still alive, really. But yeah, I had like, you know, just places like you kind of have heard of it, but it never crosses your mind or like just is on your radar. And South Africa was just one of those places that was just I never thought about it. I didn't really realize it existed. And then I got there and oh my God, like it's so beautiful. It's probably the most beautiful place on earth, if you ask me. Like it's stunning. I love the people. And I lived there for 2 years before moving to New York. To continue my ballet career with Ballet Trocadero. And that's kind of when the drag started jumping back into things. So it was a drag ballet company. It was an all-male company, and we danced on point, which is where I learned to dance on point. But it was very like, the drag wasn't very important. It was very much like stage makeup. Like you put on a wig, you put on some lashes, some like stupid eyeshadow, and like you're a ballerina. It was supposed to be funny. There was never that like art of like becoming a woman, or like that wasn't the emphasis on it. So like I did drag, I kind of started doing drag then, and I did that for 4 years. And at the end of the 4 years, my body was sore. I was so burnt out and tired. I was like, I'm ready to be done with dancing. And I really was enjoying the drag aspect of it more than the dancing aspect of it. So I decided to move back to Toronto and pursue a career as a full-time drag queen, which sounded crazy at the time, but I got back to Toronto. I think I moved back in August of 2012. And by January 2013, I was doing it full time and just paying all my bills.
Did you have a drag family, a drag mother? How did you have a point of reference that you could move back to Toronto and make a full-time career out of doing drag?
Yeah, I had my drag mother, Fahrenheit. She's a big showgirl in Toronto. And like when I was 19, starting going to the bars, she was like the it girl of Toronto. So she was everywhere all the time. And she's an ex-dancer. So we kind of bonded over that. And we just kept in touch over the years. Like every time I'd be in town, I'd go see her show, or we'd text a little bit here and there. And then when I was deciding I wanted to do drag more, we started talking more. And then she kind of gave me my start. I remember I was on a break from dancing and I came back to Toronto and she was like, come do some numbers at my shows for like a tip spot. I was like, okay. And I think at the time my drag name was Bianca, just Bianca. Just, yeah. So I went back and I was in the dressing room and she was getting ready to announce me. And she was like, please welcome to the stage my newest drag daughter, Brooke Lynn Hytes. And I was like, who's that? And they're like, girl, that's you. So that was like what she just named me one night. And that was my name. And it kind of went from there. And then, so then I started like the best way to get exposure in Toronto. They have like a lot of bar pageants and like nights like that. So I entered all the bar pageants and I won them all my first year. So I had like 4 titles in Toronto at the same time or something like that. And so that kind of put me on the radar. And then I started doing US pageants. I did Entertainer of the Year, and then I did Miss Continental right after that. And I got first runner up, and I went back the next year and won. And it was around that time, like that time I was in Toronto, like I kind of knew of RuPaul's Drag Race and I'd watched it, but like it was around that time I kind of realized like what a big thing it was becoming. And I was kind of noticing, I was like, I want to do drag, but like, if I'm going to do drag, I don't want to just be in a bar for the rest of my life. This can't be it. I want to like really do something with it because I love doing this. And I was kind of learning about RuPaul's Drag Race really at the same time that I was learning about pageantry and stuff like that. It kind of all came together at the same time for me, which is very strange because like a lot of the kids now, they don't know anything about pageantry or that world of drag, and they just know RuPaul's Drag Race. And I'm kind of on the cusp of that, where I come from the old school world of pageantry, but I'm also very influenced by RuPaul's Drag Race because I watched that in my 20s. And like, so I have a lot, I kind of feel the same way about some RuPaul's Drag Race girls as I do about some of my favorite pageant queens. Like I kind of put them in the same category. So yeah, it was really, really a cool time. And I saw what drag was doing, that these girls were making money and that they were doing all these really cool things. And I was like, I want to be a part of that. Like, I want that for my career. So when I won Miss Continental in 2014, the owners of Play Dance Bar in Nashville were in the audience, and they messaged me after and said, we'd love to book you for the weekend. And I was like, great, sure. So I went down, and it actually turned out to be an audition. They were auditioning me to be on cast. And I was like, oh, wonderful. They're like, would you want to move down here? And I was like, honestly, yeah, like totally. I thought of it. I had no desire to move to Nashville itself. Like, Nashville's fine, but it's never a place I thought about. Like, I didn't really realize it existed. It was there, but it was never on my radar. But I saw that by them sponsoring me for a work visa to get back to the States, that would be that would open a door to me to get my green card and then be on the show. So they sponsored me for the work visa. I got my work visa beginning of 2015. I moved down in February. And then I immediately started working on getting my green card, which I got by January, like I think December 2015. And then from then I started applying for the show.
Unbelievable, the journey that we go through, like the steps that we have to take to get to the point where we're at now, and we have no idea in the moment that this is going to lead to that, which is going to connect to this, which is going to lead me to what eventually ends up being our destinies, my darling. And this was just part of your destiny.
Yeah, like I worked really hard to get where I am. Like I spent, green cards and visas are not cheap to begin with. And with no hope that, like, there's no guarantee you're going to get one if you apply for one. So I was literally like gambling all of my life savings on hopefully this opportunity, and thank God it paid off. And then once I got it, there was no guarantee. Like, I wasn't promised a spot on the show. I didn't know. Like, I auditioned for 10. Was the first season I was like allowed to properly audition for, because I had all of the proper documentation, and got semi-far. I didn't get super far. And that was like a huge letdown because I wanted this so badly. And I saw my friends getting on and stuff. And I was like, oh, like, I'm happy for you, but at the same time, I wish it was me. and it just wasn't my time. And when it was my time, it was the right time, and I was ready and I was prepared. And it was just such an amazing experience. I still can't believe it was real some days.
Oh, honey. I mean, it's literally living in a dream come true. You know, I had a similar experience to you in regards to emigrating from Canada to the United States myself as well, because I was born and raised in Canada, and now I'm a dual American Canadian citizen. But it took time, you know, the process of getting, I never had a visa. I just went straight from my green card and then from my green card to citizenship. But it's a
How
huge,
long?
you know,
How long did it take for you to get, like, once you had your green card? You have to wait 3 years before you can apply. 5?
5 years. Yeah, yeah. And then getting to the point where I could become a citizen. Once again, it's a huge investment, a huge amount of time and money, and it's a gamble. There's no guarantee that you are going to be awarded citizenship or a green card or a visa. But I knew that it was worth it for me, because I want to ask you what your experience was like, or the contrast for you. But as much as I love Canada, and as much as I am tremendously blessed to have cut my teeth there, to have been given opportunities to begin modeling and acting, which led me to where I am today, I reached a certain point where I felt like I hit the proverbial glass ceiling, and I couldn't really go any further where I was at that time. And
Completely.
so much of it had to do with otherness, with queerness, with blackness, not really fitting into any certain box or category, and not really having anybody who could share a vision with me as to where I could go, what I could do, where I would be useful, where I would best fit in. I wasn't the hunky, straight leading man. I wasn't the super sassy gay best friend. I wasn't kind of anything. And it wasn't until I moved to New York. Within my first month of moving to New York, I started working, and I just found an entire community who just got me. I had no idea that is what was there waiting for me, but I'm forever grateful that I stumbled upon it. What was the difference for you?
It was a lot of the same as what you just said. I grew very quickly in Toronto, and I realized very quickly, like, drag was something I was really good at doing. Like, I won kind of all the contests. I kind of done everything I could do in the scene in Toronto. And the unfortunate thing about Canada is that there's a lot of drag queens up there, and there's a lot of, like, it's a large country, but there's not a lot to do if you're a drag queen. Like, it's basically work at the bar and, like, do your shows every week at the bar. And, like, in Toronto, like, the girls, you're literally finish one show at this bar and you run across the street to the other bar, and then you run down. Like, it's a constant rat race. And I was getting really bored. There was just, like, it was just kind of bar shows and then pageants once in a while, and there was just nothing to do. And I was like, okay, well, I've done this, and I was making great money. Like, I was like saving money, putting it away, supporting myself as a drag queen, but there was no growth. Like, I felt just stunted. And that's why I moved to the States, because there was just more opportunity. And I would love to, and that's one of the reasons I'm so excited about Canada's Drag Race. It's creating opportunity for Canadian queens to be seen and to be showcased. And more importantly, it's giving them a reason to want to try. Like, in the States, there's a reason down here, like, why you want to get better. You have a goal. And I think that's so important. Like, you need a goal, you need something to reach for. And that's what Drag Race gave me. It gave me a goal. It gave me something to be unattainable, this seemingly unattainable, that I wanted to achieve. And I just wasn't getting that in Canada.
Because any hole is
a goal. Yeah, it just gave me, I needed purpose. I needed a mission, something to accomplish. So yeah, I was 3 years in Toronto, and that was great, but it was time to move on. And now, like, and also another part of it was the whole immigration thing. Being a Canadian citizen, but living in the States and being able to work in the States means I can go back to Canada and work whenever I want. But being a Canadian citizen living in Canada, I can't go down to the States and work. So that cut off a huge part of my market.
Totally. Yeah, completely. You know, and it's, there's, in everything that we're recapping in our own personal experience, there is absolutely no shade to anyone out there who lives in Canada, who's content living there. I had so many friends who, not necessarily drag queens, but people in my field, so many actor friends and model friends who were completely content living the life that you were explaining, working local jobs, making a dope living, building their families, buying a house, living that life. That was, I had so much of that around me that I kind of just, I didn't really have points of reference for anything past that where I was. So anything past that was completely unknown to me. It was completely uncharted territory. And I didn't really have anyone who I knew personally who would come before me that I could use as inspiration to follow their path. So in a way, I had to blaze my own trail.
Yeah, I mean, same. I'm like the first drag queen that, I'm sure there have been others, but like that I know of my generation that got a green card and moved down to the States to do drag down in the States, like to do it like legally and properly. I was the first one. And yeah, no shade. Like I have so many friends and sisters who are still up in Toronto doing the bar gigs and they love doing it, but everybody's different. And for me personally, I get bored very easily and I like a challenge, and I just didn't feel like I was being challenged. Like I was getting as much work as I wanted or needed. And I just wanted something new, and I wanted to challenge myself, and Drag Race had kind of always been there. And I was like, I'm going to make this happen. And when all the pieces kind of fell into place, I was like, okay, well, let's do it. Let's go for it.
So you mentioned before that in your mind, you kind of put some pageant queens and drag race queens on the same level. Have you seen those two worlds start to collide? Have you started to see your favorite pageant queens step into the drag race world?
Not yet. Like, well, Roxy Andrews, she's one of my favorite pageant queens, and she stepped into the drag race world, which is amazing.
She sure did, and she's here to make it clear.
She is here to make it clear. Yeah, and it's really cool. And a lot of my favorite drag race girls are girls who grew up with the pageant girls. They grew up before Drag Race, and they have so much love and respect for that side of drag and that art form, like the old legends and stuff like that. Like Detox, for instance. Like Detox is one of she's such a kind person, and she loves drag so much. I love going to like a drag show with her because everybody is just getting tips. Doesn't matter who you are. She's so supportive and has so much admiration for old school drag, which I love. And I didn't know Detox for years. I just like watched her on TV and I was a fan of hers. And then I became friends with her. So that's a perfect example of someone who's like, I kind of, even though she's a friend, I kind of put her on that same tier of people I grew up watching and like learning from.
You know, it's funny. I was just talking about this in the last episode with Tatiana Maslany, that you were somebody who I didn't know, obviously, before we met, but you were somebody who I knew of, and you were somebody who I admired and was so intimidated by.
I get that a lot. It's crazy. I don't know. I think it's my shyness, because like I'm not a super outgoing person. I get social anxiety. So if I walk into a room, I'm not like, hi, I'm here. Like I'm not that person. If I walk into a room, I'm probably going to stare straight ahead. I'm not going to make eye contact with anybody because I'm nervous too. It just takes me a minute. Like if I don't know anybody, like, and I have to go and do something, like it's very nerve-wracking for me.
Oh, wow, honey. I don't think I knew this. I mean, I knew that after knowing you now for a period of time, I know that partly it's just who you are. I can see you kind of go inside of yourself in certain moments in, large group settings, but I know now that it's never personal and that it's just you, trying to process the energy of the world around you in a way that you can still protect yourself.
I'm an extroverted introvert.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I'm a huge introvert too. The first time I ever saw you outside of RuPaul's Drag Race was actually at RuPaul's Drag Con. And I could very much see that in you. I could very much see you that you were in a place during your meet and greets of in between each fan coming up of you having to like retreat into yourself. I thought maybe it was just so that you could recharge, because so much is demanded of you in situations like that. And so much energy is drained from you if you're not.
It's exhausting being friendly.
Totally. You know, I mean, I've had to draw boundaries around being friendly as well because I am the person who walks into a room with wide open arms, who says hello to everyone and gives a big hug to everyone. But I really had to learn how to draw boundaries within myself, especially in work settings, because too often I found myself giving away all of my energy before the camera even started rolling. And then, you know, and the camera starts rolling and I don't have enough to give in the way that I need to give it. And
Yeah.
I think it's part of it is being Canadian, and being Canadian, being the only Black queer boy in any given setting while growing up, just always having this unconscious fear of. I guess I consciously tried to disarm people to make them comfortable in my presence. You know what I'm saying? And in doing so, that's often led to me overextending myself to make them feel comfortable, and therefore jeopardizing my own well-being, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It's something I learned recently about myself. I never really thought about it before, but then I was talking with a friend about it, and I realized that people don't give me energy, people take energy from me. Like, and I recharge my energy by being alone. I love being with people, but there comes a point, like, and my friends, like, you can see it when I go out with you. Like, there comes a point when you're just like, okay, Brooke's done. Like,
done.
I'm not a party all night till 4 a.m. Like, I reached my hour and I'm like, okay, well, this has been fun. It's time for me to be alone now. It's one of those things. And I think, so yeah, like I get that I'm intimidating a lot. I think a lot of it has to do with my stature and like how tall I am. And like, I look like a bitch. I get it. But
you don't look like a bitch. You're so funny. You look like a dancer. You look very regal. I feel like that's what it is. I feel like
approachable. Like, I know I am, but it's really, I just spend so much time inside myself. I'm not really so much aware of people around me, and it's just social anxiety and stuff.
Oh, honey, that's so humanizing hearing that. And, you know, like I said, now knowing you, I think you're one of the sweetest, kindest people that I know. You really are. You're so, the first time we met, going back to that at the Emmys, I felt instantly and immediately connected to you. Like I had known you for forever. I just felt like I had that instant rapport with you.
I remember you said that.
Yeah, I really did. I felt so comfortable with you immediately upon actually properly being introduced to you.
Yeah, it was so great. It was such a great first meeting. We were just like, oh, you! And we had just found out that we were going to be doing this.
Exactly.
It was so exciting.
We had that crazy mutual shared experience of we were about to embark on this incredible journey together of being co-hosts and judges on Canada's Drag Race. So I don't think I've ever even asked you this either. How were you asked to do Canada's Drag Race? How did World of Wonder approach you to do Canada's Drag Race?
I don't really even remember. Like, I remember being right after we'd filmed season 11. I was like, I think August or early September, and I was in LA, and I went to the World of Wonder offices to say hi, and I sat down with like Fenton and Tom and a few of the boys, and we were just talking, and I said, we're talking about like Wow Present shows I could do or coming up with my own online series. And I was like, you know what? I know this is like a pipe dream, and like, who knows if it's going to come true, but I would love for there to be a Canadian Drag Race. And if there is, I want to be a part of it. Like, I want to judge or host or just in some way, if I could be a part of it, like, I would love that so much. And they're like, oh yeah, that's like been in like we're like, have the idea, we're tossing around, but it was all very like airy fairy, like, you know, not like, yeah, maybe, sure, whatever. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then less than a year later, I think I don't even remember who I got a call from or an email, and they were like, yeah, it's like happening, and they want you to be a permanent judge on it. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like that's something like, that's like a fucking pipe dream. Such a shot in the dark. Like, oh yeah, that would be like a cool idea, maybe, sure, ha ha ha. But like, it's such RuPaul's show, and the show is RuPaul. So I'm like, they're obviously like, that's never going to happen. And that's fine. But like, it's just an idea. And then it happened. And like, with Ru's blessing and like being handpicked by him to do it was just such an honor. And I just couldn't believe it. Like, it was one of those like when you get on Drag Race, being on Drag Race is great, but it's always like what's happening next. Like you're on the show, great. How are you going to kind of make this last into something?
Yeah.
And like kind of extend your moment. And like what a great way to do it, to get our own spinoff.
Unbelievable. You know, I think there is something to be said for pipe dreams. I think there's something so extraordinarily powerful and magical about the audacity to dream something that nobody else, maybe not something that nobody else has dreamed, but things that other people may not have the courage or belief in themselves to even say out loud, to dare to dream. You know, you and I being two, I think, pretty solid examples of being two queer boys from Canada who really had no points of reference as to how we could live the life of our unimaginable dreams, and having to set those goals and set those intentions, everything from getting a green card and getting citizenship to having a full-time career as a drag queen, to me working as an actor full-time, to living in South Africa and modeling and traveling the world, to now hosting and judging on Canada's Drag Race. I mean, all of those things, had we said those out loud, you know, to people even 3 years ago, you know, people would have laughed at us.
Oh, completely. Like my whole life has, like, if I look back at it, like I'm a little white boy from like a Christian missionary family. Like who I had no idea like any of this was going to be happening. Like, and I knew what I loved to do, and I just went for it, heads down, balls to the walls, and I was going to make it happen for myself. And like all of the things I've accomplished have been really extraordinary, and I don't really stop and give credit to that. Like I've really done some really cool shit in my life. Like I never would have thought possible. I never even dreamed of doing. Like I remember you ever have those moments that like just stick with you for your entire life, and it's just like a little blip of something. One of those moments for me is my first year at Etobicoke School of the Arts. It's a musical theater. It's an arts high school in Toronto, and I went there before I started the National Ballet School of Canada for musical theater. And it was the first day, and I remember walking into our musical theater dance class, and we had this crazy teacher, Victoria, and she was like your typical like hippy dippy, like wild white hair, just like this crazy like out there dance teacher. And she took one look at me, and she just walked up to me, and she just squinted, and she said, "You're going to have a very interesting life," and walked away.
She's a witch. She saw something in you.
I swear to God, like, and I will never forget that as long as I live. Like, it's one of those moments that just like stick with me.
Have you seen her again or spoken to her since?
No, I have no idea like where she is or like anything. I would love to see her again, because like she was right.
Girl, she's right. Maybe she's still at the Etobicoke School of the Arts. You know, we have a mutual friend who is a mutual alum with you, someone who was in the same class as you, one of my best friends, Ellen.
Yes, Brittany Allen. Oh my God. Yeah, I went to, she was literally in my grade 9 homeroom, my musical theater.
So adorable. I love her so much. She's an extraordinarily talented actor. She is one of my favorite musicians, and she actually does the outro music for this season of the podcast. Y'all got to go check out her EP. She has she has amazing sickening songs, but 3 that I listen to just on repeat over and over and over again. Looking for Another, which is the theme music for this podcast. So Fucking Alone, and The Depths. Go check out, everyone. Brittany Allen on SoundCloud.
Sounds incredible. She was even in grade 9, she just had the most beautiful voice. And she was one of those kids that you were like, oh, you're going to like actually be on Broadway or something. Like you're going to do something with this.
I mean, and she slayed it. She's like, yeah, she's an Emmy-winning actress. She's done it all. It's like it's testament to the type of talent that school pumps out.
Yeah, no, she was incredible. I haven't seen her. God, I don't think I've seen her since like grade 9. Actually, we'll have to have a reunion.
Yeah, she's living here in LA as well. So once all of these social distancing restrictions loosen up a little bit. Maybe we can have a little reunion, Kiki. Did I ever tell you the story as to how I was asked to do Canada's Drag Race?
No, yeah, tell me. How did that go?
It was last DragCon where I actually saw you. It was the season 11 DragCon in Los Angeles, and I had done a documentary with Fenton and Randy from World of Wonder called Stonewall Out Loud, and it was the premiere party at DragCon. They were having a little cocktail party and screening the trailer for the first time, and Raja was hosting it. And Fenton and I were there, and we were just chatting. We were chatting about like our formative years and when we first both moved to New York, and he was talking about how when he moved from London, it was actually very similar sentiments to what you and I were saying, that he felt like he had hit that glass ceiling and just didn't know what he was going to do or where he could possibly go in his current environment. So he moved to New York. And I said, oh my gosh, I had the exact same experience when I moved to New York from Canada. And he just paused and said, wait, you're Canadian? And I said, yeah. And he said, we need Canadians. And I said, for what? And he said, for the panel. I said, what panel? Like, I thought they were doing a Canadian panel at DragCon. And I was like, cool, yeah, sure, I'll sit on the Canadian panel at DragCon. And he said, no, Canada's Drag Race. I feel like I blacked out from that point forward until maybe a few weeks later when he called me and actually said, no, this is official. We're the show's been greenlit and we want you as a judge.
Oh my God.
It was such a dream come true for me, because after sitting on the panel of RuPaul's Drag Race, I was so keenly aware, and I'm still so keenly aware, of what a tremendous blessing it is, what a dream come true it is. I am just a super fan, just like the rest of y'all listening right now, who would sit at home and binge season after season and be yelling at my TV and kikiing with the girls from my couch. And then to have somehow manifested it into me sitting on that panel myself, it was beyond a dream come true. It was such a pipe dream that I had no idea how I would ever get to that point. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad that I had the audacity to hold on to that vision and to hold on to that dream of somehow sitting on the panel as a permanent judge. I think I was so, I was instantly, as soon as Fenton asked me to do it, as excited as I was terrified. And it took me a little bit to get past the fraud mentality and to recognize that somehow over the course of the past decade, everything that I had experienced on my journey, unbeknownst to me at the time, had made me qualified to sit on the panel of a television series and to be judging people. I had been working as a model since I was a teenager. I moved into working as an actor. I, between modeling and acting, worked as a modeling agent at a modeling agency, and as a booker and a scout. And I would go all around the world and scout for models and be going to pageants and conventions and scouting models. And in doing so, it's a very similar environment to that of Drag Race, where I was literally sitting on a panel judging and like watching models walk up and down the runway and doing critique and helping them progress and helping them grow. And at the time, during my early 20s, when I was doing all of that, I felt very lofty. I felt very lost in a way. I didn't really know which direction to go. So I kind of flowed where the wind was taking me. And I guess this is just a lesson to anyone out there who's listening, who may be feeling that way now in their 20s or 30s. Just listen to those inklings. Listen to the whispers of the spirit of the universal soul that's all around us. It's constantly whispering us, giving us little, Rue calls it stage direction from the universe, telling us left or go right or go this way or that way or do this or do that or yes or no. Slowly and surely, I learned to trust that voice, and even if it didn't make logical sense at the time, to recognize that it was a voice stronger and much more powerful and wiser than my own, and to listen to it because it will always lead me to a place where I'm better off than where I was before, where I'm protected and where I can thrive.
For sure. Absolutely. I mean, I was definitely excited and nervous too, but I mean, I have a good eye. I know what I like. I know I can spot talent a mile away, and I'm the only person on the panel. What I bring to it is that I'm the only person there that's lived it. So I know exactly how they feel, and I'm naturally judgmental. So throw that in. So yeah, it was just such an honor and such a pleasure to get to do it.
Girl, it was such a dream. What are you most excited for the world to see when Canada's Drag Race premieres?
Just the wonderful talent we have, the personalities, I feel like Canadian queens kind of have this chip on their shoulder, like they're not as good as American queens. Like I feel like that's with Canada in general. I feel like we always play like second fiddle. So I'm really excited to like show like we have really high caliber drag in Canada, and we have some amazing queens that deserve to be showcased. And I'm just excited for all the challenges they got to do, and I think we have some amazing lip syncs and performances. Like, I think it's going to be great. Like, it's going to be so surreal just to watch it again and like see myself up there, but like from the other point of view, and see these girls who a lot of like I know, because I've been a drag queen in Canada for a long time, so I've kind of worked with everybody. So I'm excited to see all these girls get this life-changing opportunity that I got.
Me too. Yeah, I'm so excited. I think you're right. I think that we as Canadians generally do have this, like I was saying before, almost like a fraud mentality, or we put American counterparts on a pedestal that we look up to. And I think what I'm most looking forward to for this season is it can echo what you said. The only Canadian drag queen that I was familiar with prior to starting as a judge on Canada's Drag Race was Brooke Lynn Hytes. And if that was the bar that my expectations were set at, these bitches had to step their pussies up, girl. I think what I was most blown away by and impressed by was the extraordinary level of talent from each and every one of the queens that were on set with us this season of Canada's Drag Race. Like you said, I mean, some of the challenges as a fan, like sitting back and seeing it from a fan's perspective, are some of the strongest challenges in all of Drag Race history. Some of the lip syncs are some of my favorite lip syncs in Drag Race history. Yeah, I think I was so excited to be there, and it was such a beautiful energy because everyone was so excited to be there. All of the crew, all of the queens, yourself, myself, and Stacey McKenzie.
Oh, Stacey! I love Stacey. Oh my God, what a hoot!
Stacey, Wagwan, Stacey.
Hi, Brooklyn.
Oh my God, I love her.
Good voice.
This is something that I was also so blown away by, and something they took a huge risk on, girl. The three of us had not met or spent time together before, really, other than that one time at the Emmys. They took a huge risk on whether or not we were going to have chemistry, and thankfully, I think we had incredible chemistry, and I just fell in love with you both so instantly. I had the best.
Yeah, it was so nice to like we got to spend like no time together before we started, and then we were just kind of thrown into it and we had to find our way. But yeah, I think we were all just mutually so excited. There was nice groundwork because like you had done it a couple times on the American show, but like none of us had ever like done this like for a full season before. So we were all kind of learning as we were going, which was wonderful. It was nice to have that support from everybody. And yeah, it was just such a fun experience. Like everyone was so excited to be there, so excited to be making the show. And what a fun show to get to make. Like
totally.
Like, this wasn't like a documentary about dying animals or something. It was like a fun, I don't know. It just wasn't depressing. It was like fun and uplifting. And you could just really get that from the crew and everybody.
Getting to be around that level of artistry and professionalism and creativity every single day, to see brilliant lip sync performances every week. I mean, I was just so blown away by it. And by the time we finished filming, I went through full on drag queen withdrawal. Like I had to come home and just like sit on my couch for a week and just binge season after season of RuPaul's Drag Race.
I was like, I never want to see another fucking drag queen again. This is great. I love it. It's time for me to recharge though.
Well, you were also getting into drag like for every episode. So
yes, I was. And that was I mean, yeah, getting into drag to just like sit there and like do nothing is like very anticlimactic. So it was like,
Girl, you didn't do nothing. First off, I'm so excited for the audience to see your sickening looks that you turned out this season on Canada's Drag Race. And two, to see how good you are, what a natural you are up on that panel. No, you are. I mean, because like you said, you were the only one out of the three of us, yourself, myself, and Stacey, who has had that personal experience of being through that experience of the competition yourself. So when you were hard on the girls, it was always from a place of love. Our critiques were always coming from a place of wanting them to better themselves. And, you know, think that it was, I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen anything. All I've seen are just like little snippets here and there from doing ADR sessions. You've seen a full episode, but from my experience, just from my memory of being there, I think that I was a little bit sterner, a little bit more mean mommy the first couple of weeks, the first couple of episodes, because I feel like I wanted to. It's not that I wanted to demand respect from these queens, but I wanted them to know that we weren't there to be their friends, that we were there to, help guide them on their path to becoming even more well-rounded, more talented, more confident performance artists. And
we're also giving you a bag full of dollars.
So, I'm not your best friend.
So that tax-free, thank you, Canada.
But that said, I did fall in love with each and every queen. I really did, and getting to see them week after week after week grow tremendously was such a gift. And that, I don't necessarily think that has everything to do with us and the critique we were given, but it was a life-changing experience. I'm so excited for the world to see it, and gosh, I just can't wait for all of this COVID stuff to
I know
down so we can go back for season 2, honey.
Seriously, I'm just great. I'm really, really so grateful that we got everything done before COVID happened. Like that was a really big blessing for everybody, I think.
Huge, honey, because I so feel for these season 12 queens who don't have the same experience that you did and every other queen from every other season prior to this. When the show was airing, that's when y'all make your money. That's when y'all go out and your booking fees go way up, and you're appearing, 10 times a week, and people are just bagging and gooped over you everywhere you go. And it's just like, it's so exciting. It's so exciting. And not for the superficial bullshit fame celebrity part of it, but the fact that drag queens are some of the hardest working, most talented, most driven and dedicated artists on the planet. And so many of them, so many of their talents and their craft that they bring to the world, so much of it goes unsung and so much of it goes unrewarded. And so to now finally be going and getting gigs and making a couple thousand per night as opposed to 30 in tips, it's such a blessing. And
you put so much, more than any other art form, you have to put so much back into your art of what you make. Like so much of what you make as a local queen or whatever, like you never... Like that goes right back to wigs and costumes and makeup, and no one's paying for that. You have to pay for everything. And drag is such a visual art form that's like the most important aspect to it. So then be able to get on the show, which is why I love drag, but I was like, I also like money. So if I could get paid a good amount to do what I love to do, that would be amazing. And being an artist, the arts, you're never paid a lot of money. It's very rarely you get that good paycheck. So, and
people don't know this though, Brooke Lynn. I think that people think that you're on TV once and you're a multi-bajillionaire, when girl, that ain't the case.
Not at all. I mean, this was Drag Race truly was the first time in my entire life that I've been paid a good amount for what I do. Like I had been paid a substantial, a nice amount of money, that it almost felt worth it. It was worth it before because I loved it, but this was as an adult to be okay, now I feel like I'm making a real living and I can support myself. I can put money away for my retirement, all of that kind of stuff that I've always been very conscious of. Yeah, I've always been
that. To be a drag queen and to be able to put money away for retirement. I love this world that we're living in. I
know. I've been saving money. I'm very good at saving money. I've been saving money since I moved to New York, actually, was when I started putting money away.
Oh, girl. Wow. Very smart.
Yeah, I would pinch and scrunch every little penny. And so I've always been very good with my money. Thank God. But yeah, it's just that it's just so nice to be able to to feel like you're making a good living. But these girls will. I mean, when this is over, people are going to be so hungry for entertainment. They're going to be so hungry to see the girls from the season, especially because it was such a phenomenal season. Is such a phenomenal season.
It really, really is. So let's go back to what you were saying before. You were a little white boy who grew up in small town Canada in a Christian missionary family, did you say?
Yeah, like my grandparents were missionaries in Malaysia, my mom's parents. So she grew up in like Borneo and like in the jungle. And, like a
Little Joan grew up in the jungle?
Joan of the jungle. Like she moved back to I think they moved to Montreal from Malaysia when she was like 14, 15. So she like was thrown into like high school all of a sudden, and she had no clue. And then my dad's family, they weren't missionaries, but they grew up in like a very strict church. It's called the Plymouth Brethren. The women weren't allowed to wear pants. They had to wear like head coverings. Like they didn't have musical instruments in church. Like it was a whole like cult thing.
Oh, so boring.
I know. And my mom's family was a part of that too until they got kicked out. They could like kick people out of the church if they didn't agree with them. Yeah. So I guess my grandpa had a fight with one of the other elders, and his family got kicked out.
So were you raised in this environment like yourself?
They left before I arrived. They were at another church. It was called Rexdale Alliance Church in Rexdale, Toronto. Hey. And that's where I was raised. And it was a much more secular church, but like still both of them had been raised in a certain way. So that was still very much like my upbringing. Like it was a pretty strict Christian upbringing.
So what was your childhood experience like growing up in a Christian family as a little gay boy who, you know, played with Barbies and women's clothes and wanted to go to performing arts school and do ballet?
It was hard. I mean, I just never felt like I never fit in. Like I was always very clearly gay, but like no one would ever admit that, or like, and if they would admit it, it was not okay. I was constantly being told, "You're a boy, you're not a girl." Like I was kind of constantly being like stifled, or just kind of. So I learned a lot of self-hatred at a very young age. I realized I felt wrong, and I felt like I wasn't right and all of that shit. So, but it's one of those things, like my parents didn't know any better. Like they had no point of reference. These were people who came from a very stifled, strict upbringing. So I didn't expect them to have a lot of understanding for what I was going through. And it was something I just kind of had to work through myself, and I'm still working through, to be quite honest. Like I carry a lot of issues and baggage from my childhood that I gotta work through.
Oh, honey. As do I. Yeah, I hear you. I can relate to that on so many levels. I wasn't raised with any specific religious sect, but I was raised in very small town, Alberta, Canada, where I was the only person of color. I was adopted by an all-white family. I was the only identifiably queer person. And when you're fed those messages of being intrinsically wrong, very core, from such a young age, it really does a number on you. It really fucks with you emotionally, mentally, spiritually. It can completely, I don't think people realize how kids bring that into their adulthood and how that affects every interaction and every relationship across the board, whether it's platonic friendships or romantic relationships, whether it's dealing with bosses and people, who are in positions of authority. When you have this constant nagging voice that who you are is not enough, it really leaves you, first off, angry, definitely, and giving your own power away to other people to let them dictate how and who you should be.
A way I coped with it when I was a young person is because I was never the cool kid at school. Like I was always bullied and called faggot and all that shit. But for some reason at church, and I was the youngest of four, so I was also like the runt of the litter. And then, but for some reason at church, like I had a good group of friends, and I was like popular among my group of friends. But my way of dealing with all of the oppression, all the bullying and being put down is I became the bully. Like when I was at church, I was the mean girl. I was the cool girl. Like that was my moment to get to know what it felt like to be popular and to be wanted, and to like put other people down to make me feel more powerful and stronger and like better about myself. And that's all. Anytime you see a bully, that's all they're doing. It's always the same.
They're just putting on Regina George drag, I put on some Regina George drag when I can remember being in 7th grade and being so Oh my God, I still feel so deeply guilty about it to this day. And actually really I've told this story before, but I want to find this girl and apologize to her. I was bullied. I was called faggot and nigger and homo and queer and, pansy and black pansy and, whatever.
I'm not black pansy.
Pansy, honey. Why gotta be black, honey?
Black pansy, honey.
But I took all of those messages that were fed to me and I believed them. I believed a lot of them, that I wasn't as good as everyone else. And because I felt so beat down, I looked for the one person around me who was smaller than me, who I could then take it out on and put on that Regina George drag and start behaving like the bullies who were, destroying my soul on a daily basis. And I came for her. I came for this one girl. And I think through therapy, I've discovered that she physically resembled one of my sisters who I had a very tumultuous relationship with. So I feel like, I took it out on her subconsciously. Her name was, I want to find her so I can apologize to her, because it's one of those things where I never did get to apologize. And I know that those who have tracked me down over the years and apologized for some of the pretty hurtful things that they had said or done to me over the years as a child, that apology meant the world to me. And two, I just want to let her know that I see her, I remember, I'm so sorry. And if there's sometimes sorry doesn't cut it, but if there's anything that I could do or say in the world to help ease that pain, her name's Jessica Perret, the girl that I tortured. So if you're listening out there, Jessica Perret from Red Deer, Alberta.
There's a girl I should reach out to too from church. She was so sweet. Her name was Priscilla Schreideren. It's so sweet, and she was just like a gawky, awkward-looking little girl, and I, for some reason, decided I did not like her. And she literally never did anything to me. She was this, sweet as pie, and I just decided that I did not want to be her friend for whatever reason. There was no reason. I felt like making someone feel terrible, and she was that person. And now she's like a big TV producer. She's like the executive producer for Shark Tank in Canada.
Oh my God, good for her.
Thank you for reminding me. I should reach out and apologize, because I was a complete cunt to her for no reason.
Yeah. I mean, I think that maybe anyone who's out there listening, we have this abundant amount of time during quarantine, social distancing right now. Maybe it's time to look inwards and kind of right some wrongs that have been weighing heavy on our souls over the past many.
Sure. I mean, I've done it before. I've apologized to people before, and the thing is, you just feel so good after you feel this release, like you've let something go. Once you have acknowledged it and you've apologized to that person for it, just knowing, it just makes them feel better, I'm sure, but it's also such a healing thing for yourself to do, to forgive yourself and let it go.
Yeah. So how did you go from, I guess maybe it's not so much your journey as Joan's journey, but how did you go from being raised with a Christian missionary mother to all of a sudden having this woman be your biggest fan? Because I've met her several times. I met her at the season 11 finale. She was sitting in front of me and she had this grin plastered on her face the entire time. You could tell just how extraordinarily proud of you she was. And then she came to set to visit us while we were filming Canada's Drag Race as well. And you're her everything. I can see that so clearly. What was your relationship like and your dynamic like?
We always had a very, she was kind of our primary caregiver. She was the one who took us to school, got us up in the morning, did everything. It was my mom for everything. And we had a good relationship, but there was always that unspoken thing. Obviously I was a different child. I wasn't like my brothers or sisters, and she kind of knew that. And so when I came out of the closet, I think I was 18 and it was Pride weekend. And there was an article in the newspaper about Pride, and she was talking about it and talking with me about it. And she was like, well, do you think you might be gay? And I was like, yeah, I think I am. And she got all sad about it and was started crying. And I was like, I'm fine. I'm literally still the same person. You can't tell me you had no idea that this was coming. Let's be honest here. You knew this was coming, and she did. But so she never got mad. It was more of a sad thing, which is almost worse. Making your parents sad. It's when they say, I'm disappointed in you, you're like, oh. So it was the same kind of thing with my dad too. and they referred to it as a lifestyle choice and all those things, and was convinced it could be fixed. And they wanted to send me to seminars. And I was like, no, we're not doing any of that bullshit. Like I moved out of my house shortly after that, just because I was like, I need to like be on my own and do my own thing. And it kind of continued like that for most of my 20s. Like that, I moved to South Africa, I moved to New York, I moved home for a little bit, but like there was just always this, I had a relationship with them, I would go and see them, but it was like that elephant in the room. There was a whole part of my life I didn't really feel comfortable talking about them with, because they obviously weren't comfortable with it. So I didn't want to make an awkward situation for anybody. And I come from a good family of WASPs, and we don't share our feelings. So it was always just a very like under the radar.
White people.
Seriously, white people. I can't, like, honestly, like, I've been to so many of my friends' houses who are of color and just been around their families. And I'm like, this is so, you guys talk, like, you fight and you have arguments and then it's fine. I was like, what is that like? Like, I come from, like, this, we do not address shit. Like, it is just, like, this underlying tension at all times that there's a problem, which is exhausting. And it's very white people.
Definitely. I grew up in a very similar environment, and I feel like it's why I like rallied against it so hard through my formative years, and now it's who I've become, where I ask all the uncomfortable questions, have all the uncomfortable conversations, say what I'm truly feeling, because I know it hurt too much to keep it inside. You know, when you were all of those messages as a kid that who you were was intrinsically wrong, and your parents thinking that it was just a lifestyle choice, did you ever believe that at any point?
No, because I was 18 by then, and I was like, I have a pretty good sense. Like, a girl's never given me a boner, so I mean,
That's right there.
It's not who I like. And I knew enough gay people and like had seen enough of it that I just kind of knew like this wasn't who I was. I mean, it still came with a buttload of shame and like wishing I was different, but I wasn't, and just that's why it's so cool to see, and it's so important for parents to be there for their children, like just to let them know that it's fine, they're normal, there's nothing wrong, and even just to like help educate them, because like when I got out into the world, like I didn't know anything about sex. I didn't know like I had basically been told like one of the first things my mom said to me, she was like, well, what about AIDS? And I was like, what about AIDS? like because I was gay, like I was going to get AIDS. It was kind of like that, because that's what she thought. Because like we just didn't know any better. I mean, there was information out there for her to know better, but just like that's what she was fed. So like, but that stayed with me like for years. I was so terrified of every time I had sex with somebody. I was like, did I get a disease? Did I like? It didn't matter. Like, and I was always safe. I always took the precautions. I was probably overly precautious, but like just because I had this mindset that had been drilled into me, like there was always this fear, like, okay, well now you're gonna get AIDS and die because you gave someone a blowjob.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just completely unreasonable things to think, and like things I'm ashamed to say that I did think for a while, because that was just my sheltered environment, and I didn't know. And even when people would tell me, you still have this thing in the back of your head saying, but I don't believe you.
Yeah. No, I hope that you can forgive yourself for that, because I feel like so many queer people, myself included, had to go through that as well, of undoing the shame of believing the negative stories that we were about, that we believed. And it wasn't so much for me having to undo the messages of, around the sexuality of being gay, of it being wrong, or it being a phase or anything. Those weren't even a question to me, because I knew that I was just, not attracted to cisgendered women. But it was more so really having to reach into the deepest strength within my soul's core to not believe the messages that people were feeding me, saying that who I was wrong, and who I was sinful and dirty and horrible and, made incorrectly, and I'm going to hell. And I knew that none of those things were true, because I knew that I was a good person. And I knew that any of my manifestations of love or acts of love. We're just that. We're coming from a place of love, not from a place of aversion or defeat or, malintent or whatever,
It's just, and that's great. I mean, I just think it's so, so important for parents to just accept and love their children. Like you have no idea the difference it makes in the upbringing to like not have to deal with all of this shame and and self-assured, like self-confidence, like all that stuff. Like I look at I was thinking about this the other day. Like I look at some of the drag queens, for example, on Drag Race. Like you can just tell, like, for example, Aquaria and Gigi Good is another one. Like these are two kids that you can tell have been nurtured by their parents from a young age to be exactly who they want to be. They've been allowed to express themselves. And like Aquaria was, I think, 21 when she got on the show. I think Gigi's 20 or 21 too. And like, I just look at them and I'm so impressed because they're so self-assured. Like they know who they are and they're so self-confident in themselves. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck I was doing at 21, but it was not like, I was not at that point where you guys are. But I'm convinced so much of it has to do with the way they were brought up, because I know they're both from very loving, supportive families. And that just shows you, it makes such a difference in your children's lives and their well-being and their mental state if you were just accepting and loving and nurturing.
Absolutely, because so many of our straight counterparts are offered a proverbial guidebook through life. Little straight cisgendered boys and girls are told that boys like blue and trucks and airplanes, and girls like pink and Barbies and kitchens. Girls like boys like girls. You have this dynamic. You grow up. You behave in these certain gender roles. You get married to somebody who's societally accepted. You get a job. You have kids. You do that thing. We aren't provided that. Not that that's necessarily the path that I want to follow, and I don't feel like I've missed out in any capacity. But when there's a deeper understanding in different ways of life, when there's different understandings of otherness, I feel like it only gives the others a stronger start in this world. And I think it just goes back to what Rue says, Drag Race bringing families together. I feel like so many parents have learned so much from watching this show, and to see to see the artistry of all of these queens, but then also to dive into their psyches and really get a deeper look into the souls of who these people are and how they became who they are, and to hear some of their troubles and hardships and the success stories, and how some of their parents, like your mom, has come out on the other side and is like your number one fan now,
Yeah, like that's I say that a lot too. That's one of my favorite things about Drag Race, is how it humanizes drag queens to the mass public, who otherwise would probably think we're circus freaks or whatever. Like it tells our story, and it shows that we are in fact people with feelings and all of that stuff. But my mom, getting back to that thing, so I moved to Nashville, and I think during my first year there, I went through a really bad depression. I was just really, really down, and I had talked to my sister a little bit about it. And her and my sister and her partner, my sister's a lesbian, and my mom all got in the car and drove to Nashville, like 14 hours, and surprised me at my drag show. And it was my first time my mom had ever come to see me at a drag show, and she surprised me. And it was such a nice trip. Like, I think Joe told her, like, I was having a really rough time. And I think it finally clicked for her. She was like, she's like, I'm just not a part of your life. Like, I feel like I miss so much, and I want to know my child, and I want to be there for them and like be a part of it. So I guess she kind of just put realized that like this was not really affecting her religion, and she could still love me the exact same way and still be a Christian. And she came down and saw my drag show. And ever since, that was like 3-4 years ago. And ever since then, like things have just completely shifted. Like she's been so wonderful. And like, we've become friends. Like I can just talk to her about anything, about drag, about a boy, like whatever. Like, I just feel like we have this really wonderful, open relationship. And she came to a couple of my viewing parties in Toronto, and it was her first time ever in a bar, period, let alone a gay bar, but like first time like ever in a bar ever. It was crazy. And I have a picture of her. She's sitting like, there's like a guy in a jock strap like right above her, and she's just there, and I'm like, oh my God. But she was blown away. I remember her saying she just could not believe how loving and friendly everybody was. She, like, I don't know what she was expecting, but like she was like, everyone was so lovely and sweet and kind and accepting. And like, she was like, my heart just broke because I thought of all these kids whose families probably don't accept them. And like, it was really sad. And she's like, and everyone was just so nice and like loving. And I'm like, yeah, Mom, we're not like monsters. We're just like everybody else.
I had a very similar journey with my mom as well, and her coming to a place where she could just see the love of our community. And it was when she first came to RuPaul's Drag Con with me, and she came back to my house that night with me, and we were sitting in the garden talking, and she just started crying, and she said what an extraordinary experience it was for her. And it was one of the first times, as a 60-some-year-old white woman in the world, I walked into that space and people saw me and people acknowledged me and hugged me and told me they loved me, and this genuine connection. They genuinely wanted to know who I was and engage with me in a way that she hasn't been engaged with for so long. And she said she just she was really keenly aware of the fact that unfortunately our community is just bombarded with so much hate and ignorance. And then when you get a perspective from inside of our community, you realize that it's just overflowing with love to such an overwhelming degree. I think that truly is the beauty of what RuPaul's Drag Race and Drag Con and this explosion of otherness in the past recent years. It's just provided such a priceless gift for the world at large.
Absolutely. It's been amazing, and it's just been wonderful to see her embrace it and be excited by it, and just she loves it. She had so much fun at the reunion. She had so much fun when she came up to that episode taping. I remember she started crying when she got up there too. She was like, I'm just so proud of you. She was like walking around with one of the producers crying, and I was like, yeah, it's just nice. Like, it just feels like we broke down a wall, and now we're just like friends, and we can just talk and have real conversations, and I can let her in my life and let her be a part of it. And that was a really big moment. And I remember she wrote me the most beautiful card after that trip to Nashville. I still have it somewhere. And it was the front's a little picture of a boy and a little girl, and she wrote Brock above the boy and Brooke Lynn above the girl. She's the cutest. But she just wrote me this really sweet message, and she just said, I'm sorry I haven't always loved you the way I should have. Just basically apologizing because she realized she had been distant. And yeah, it was just really nice. Just really it was a big healing moment for me.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah, it was really good. I'm very lucky to have her. She's an incredible woman, and so funny and just adorable. She's just like the cutest little mom.
Thank goddess for the moms.
Really.
You have had one of the most insane past year and a half. I mean, when I take a look at your touring schedule, it's literally just the calendar is completely booked. How are you finding sustainability and self-care during this time, or that time of being nonstop?
I wasn't really I didn't really take a proper break that entire time. I took a week or 2 weeks for vacation, but even then, I'm the type of person, I can't turn my brain off. If I know something else is coming, I'm never completely, truly relaxed. So I kind of just powered through, honestly. I took a break from drinking in the fall, which really helped. I took 3 months off, which kind of got me through the chunk of September, October, November, December. I think I started drinking right after New Year's. So 4 months off, I guess. And that really helped. But my recommendation is sleep whenever you can, drink a lot of water. Don't drink when you work. That's kind of my motto is if I'm at a gig, I don't drink. But if I'm going out and having fun, I'll have a couple drinks. But if I'm working, don't drink. Keep it cute, keep it professional. Just stuff like that. And just, it's really hard your first year. I didn't really do it. To say no to things. You just want to say yes to every single opportunity. And yeah. I personally believe you should, because you never know what's going to come of that. And you just kind of have to make peace with the fact that you're going to be exhausted. You're just going to be tired. And that's fine because you're young and you'll sleep when you're dead. And this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So you literally have to grab everything you can by the balls and just go for it. That's what I did with my agents. I was like, I think I actually said to my agent, I was like, I want to get to the point where I call you up crying because I'm so tired and I don't want to work anymore.
But what you wish for, honey.
I literally, there were times I was like, I can't do it. I'm exhausted. And they're like, you wanted this. And I was like, I don't care. And I would call them the next day. I was like, that was such a fun gig. Complete emotional monster.
So funny. Well, we're going to have to wrap things up soon, but I want to get into a little bit of rapid fire questions with you. But before we do that, I just have to comment on the fact that you're wearing my t-shirt, my androgynous shirt. This is so exciting. You look so good in it.
Thank you. I love it.
Yes, girl. And I'm wearing my other t-shirt, my otherness shirt. So I normally sell these at DragCon, but now that we're not doing DragCon this year, I'm going to have to find a way to produce them and get them out to the people if they want them. But it makes me so happy when I see my friends wearing my shirt. Any podcasts that you've been listening to?
I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. I did listen to yours recently, the one you did with Michelle.
Amazing.
And I've listened to Rue and Michelle's podcast a little bit too. I want to start the murder podcast. Have you heard about that one?
To Live and Die in LA, Serial. Which one is it?
I think it's literally called the Murder Podcast, or it's these two girls, and it's super, super popular. And my best friend Steve listens to it, and he's like, you have to listen to it. And apparently they just go through like murders and like talk about them.
What TV shows are you binging right now?
I just watched Black as Fuck. Have you watched that with Regina George?
Oh no, I need to see it.
Oh, it's her new one on Netflix. It's fucking hysterical.
Okay.
It's amazing. It tackles issues people of color face. But it does it in a really comedic way. Like I was like laughing out loud. It's almost like a mockumentary. It's kind of like The Office style of filming.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
Smile is better than talent.
Ooh, I love that. A smile is better than talent. Girl, I love that. What's your favorite quote?
A smile is better than talent.
When or where do you feel most authentically yourself?
When I am with my friends, probably.
Oh, gorgeous. I love that. What is whispering inside of you the loudest right now? You know, what we were talking about earlier, that inner voice, that intuition telling you to go left or right or do this or that.
I have an inner voice that's telling me you need to suck a dick.
Yes.
Like, yeah, that would be nice. I just miss like human contact.
Some quarantine dick, honey. Some quarantine D.
Yes.
Oh, I know. You're a Pisces. You're so touchy-feely. I think that physical touch is probably your love language.
Oh, for sure.
And lastly, what do you celebrate or love most about yourself?
What do I celebrate? This is so funny. My therapist, I just started therapy, like online therapy last week. And what her assignment for the week was like, she's like, I want you to like every day think of things that you're grateful about yourself for. So funny you asked that. I think right now what I'm most grateful for is my tenacity. Like I always find a way. Like I always find my way through things, and I'm a fighter. I'm a very strong person. And I don't give myself credit for that. So that's my favorite thing about myself currently.
I have too many favorite things about you to list. This has been so lovely.
I know. What a fun conversation.
Oh, honey, I can't wait to do it again. All right, everyone, we are out of time. Thank you for tuning into my frequency, and thank you to my phenomenal guest, Brooke Lynn Hytes, for having this conversation with me.
Oh my God, my pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, honey, the pleasure was all mine. I love you. I feel so blessed to have made a friend in you and to be sharing this experience of one of the best gigs of my life, and to be able to bring this incredible project to the world together. It's what an honor. I love you.
I can't believe it. I can't wait for them to see.
Yeah, me too. All right. And if I can leave you all with one thing, it's this: celebrate yourself and love each other. I'm JBC, and I love you. Remember to subscribe, rate, and leave a comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or however you tune into our frequency. You can support us by sharing this episode with a friend and spreading the love with each other. You can find us at conversationswithothers.com and reach us at conversationswithothers on Instagram, at CWO Podcast on Twitter, and conversationswithothers.podcast@gmail.com. Our outro song is Looking for Another by Brittany Allen.